Hello to everyone. There are still people connecting, so I just start. I'm Daniela Elsner, Executive Director of UniFrance, a promotion agency for French cinema worldwide. And today we are here especially for VR, which is something we do care of since quite a couple of years. But this year we have decided that we give it a special attention. Together with films around animation, but also, of course, in a general way. But here in Annecy, we are, of course, focused on animation. And I think it's a very interesting panel, which first of all, I tell everyone it's not easy. So please be very nice with our participants. Ask questions, say them that they are great, because I think it's not so easy to talk. I said that this morning already. It's not so easy to talk in front of your own computer, be passionate about the things you're talking about, and try to convince people. So you're still alone in your office facing a computer. So, well, alone more or less. We have you too, but so it's a special exercise. It's quite unknown for every one of us. So. For all of you who are listening, don't hesitate. You know that you can ask questions to the Q&R. I think everyone can see the questions today, so that's also something that you can also see how it's interacting. And well, I want to thank our team at UniFrance who made all this possible. On one hand, it's all the technical side, which is very important. And on the other hand, it's content-wise. Christine Gendre, who you still see, I think, who is the head of the Department for Short Films and also VR. Tiziana and Claire, who you don't see anymore. And Axel Scoffier, our Deputy Director, who is going to be with you during the whole session, and he will say a few words. And of course, the team, all the panelists, thank you so much to share your experience. I think we do a little bit travel and work around the globe to see how VR films travel, how your project is going to travel, how you prepare, what are the difficulties, but also the strong moments in the life of a film VR experience, which is not so easy. And I'm now head of UniFrance for a couple of months, and I already experienced that there are a couple of things in VR that you have to be very careful about and to know. It's not like it doesn't just come up and you show the film. So but I'm sure we have specialists to explain that much better than I do. So I wish you a very interesting panel. I'm going to switch off my camera, but I will be listening to you. And I hand over the camera and the micro to Axel. Thank you and have an interesting panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. Hi to all the public and also hello to our panelists. Just a few words to present the five of you, 4 screens, but 5 people. So we have Yuri and Michel Crano, the 2 directors of the Hangman at Home here. Leana Tankoza Nikolic, who is the Danish producer of the film from Late Love Production. Also Marc Bertrand from the National Film Board of Canada, who talks to us from Canada, where it's the morning at the moment. And also Katayun Dibamer, who is a French co-producer from Floréal Films, along with a new production who is not on the panel today. So thank you, the 5 of you, to be here. I think Yuri will have to leave us in a few minutes, but you're still here, so we are glad to see your face, and then you have some duties on the project. Today it's a presentation which is slightly different or mostly different to what you did yesterday in the MIFA work in progress events, where you presented with all the other partners the projects, its genesis, all the creative steps and so on. Today we are more focusing on the distribution strategy of the project and of regarding its different formats, because the Hangman at Home is both a short film and a VR project for a single user, but also for multiple users. So we will discuss on what this idea of having 3 projects at the same time involved in terms of showing it in festivals, in locations, and then its potential commercial career. So the panel is recorded. So if in the public you have to miss some point, you will be able to catch up later with UniFrance on our digital tools. And that's it. So I will disappear and let our panelists present the project and one by one, but I will be there to ask questions. If the public, you need to ask questions, please, you have a Q&A button. You can write down your questions and we will read them and we will either answer it on the moment or later on at the end of the session. Yes, and we are especially with Claire, who prepared that with me, happy to present this project because the Hangman at Home was maybe one of the last things we did, we saw before the crisis. So we were invited by Floréal to experiment the 4 users project in Paris just the day before the shutdown. So here it's nice, even if it's digital, to reopen the world little by little with your project. So that was my special word on that. So please, Michel and Yuri, I leave you the floor. So you will be talking more about the creative part, of course, of the project, but and on the difference between the different formats and so on. But I leave you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Axel.
Actually, it's probably a good idea to start by telling people what it's about, right? What is the Hangman at Home? So we have, maybe we go to our opening slide, or
We can show the trailer.
let's show the trailer.
Yeah, maybe just to say that everything we show now is work in progress. I mean, we are trying to finalize the project, but everything we show is not the official release material that we haven't made yet.
So a lot of it is quite raw, and a lot of it is really behind the scenes, which makes it very exciting for us to share these things for the first time with all of you.
Yeah. So maybe we start with a trailer. Mm-hmm.
What does the hangman think about when he goes home at night from work? When he sits down with his wife and children for a cup of coffee and a plate of ham and eggs, do they ask him if it was a good day's work and everything went well? It must be easy for him. Anything is easy for a hangman, I guess.
Okay. I'll just close the window. You talk.
There's a bunch of teenagers. There's a bunch of teenagers walking by. Sorry, guys. So, yeah.
They didn't know about the house rules.
No, be quiet when you walk past the studio. I think that it's nice to start with the trailer for the VR because it kind of encapsulates some of the things and some of the themes that we've been working with. The Hangman at Home is based on a poem by Carl Sandburg. Carl Sandburg is an iconic figure in literature, and this particular poem really struck us, and we were honored to be able to use it for this project. The Hangman at Home is maybe a collection of stories, but it deals with this topic of intimacy in these intimate moments in interiors. We use the poem as a gateway also to talk about bigger topics like accountability, about acknowledgement, our responsibilities, both on a global level and on the domestic. So working across these different mediums allows us different entries into the participatory experience, where we move from observation to action.
Yeah. Should we share some
maybe
images?
Images.
Okay. Images. Here it is.
Presentation.
This?
Mm-mm.
This? Oh, okay. So I think you explained what it is. So we used the poem as as an introduction to the world that we've created. We come from filmmaking and animation, like the classical drawn, painted animation, and this will be our third project in virtual reality. So by now we have a little bit of experience, that we're not completely clueless. But what we've done this time is we've expanded. Our first immersive project was just an observation. It was not interactive at all. Our second one was already introducing a call for an action from the user. But this time, this project is very much calling for you, the participant, to get your hands dirty and play with us. It's not a game, but you are becoming, let's say, the main ingredient in the experience.
It may be interestingly, in the shift between the single user and the multi-user, you become not only a participant but also a performer. Mm-hmm. And we were curious about the shift between the different mediums, and then we use the same imagery, the same topics, the same stories, but because the medium allows us different ways of being in the world, we approach them differently. And they are, in fact, uniquely different products of the same project, but I wouldn't even call them versions. As opposed to a previous works, for example, Nothing Happens, which was, the VR was a kind of an adaptation of the short film. It took it to a different level. It did have a certain level of interactivity, but it was quite implied. And in this one, we really wanted to see what it's like to watch, and what it's like to be in something, and what it's like to be activated. So we used VR
Yeah, and I think this is one of the earliest pictures when we worked together with a local theater here in Vibo, where we from the beginning we already planned the 4 routes that we would like to take: film, VR, single user, multi-user, and a performance, an installation, which
is another layer. So it's in fact 4 pieces.
Yeah. And to see how we create 4 different projects that, they're aligned, and they of course all connected, but they do give a specific feeling or a different feeling.
And each one relies also on different collaborators, which I think is very interesting for us. But we did bring in the thinking about VR in a theater context very early in the film's development.
as we've said, we come from painting, and our recent works are the animation style we're using is we're trying to embed reality within the paintings. So what we do is we shoot live footage with actors, and then we manipulate the footage and create fully painted scenery that at the end you can hardly see the original material. But what happens is that because it's based on realistic movement, on rotoscopy, you get this strange feeling of, you feel it's a painting, you know it's not real, but the movement tells you something else, and you have this kind of a contrast or intriguing feeling.
I think that implementing the very traditional handmade and hand-painted style that we use into virtual reality, it was quite a challenging technological, I'd say, experiment. And we're very thankful, especially to our technical director, Morten Anderson, who managed to help us put it together in a way that we feel is very authentic and uncompromising. That was also part of the fact that we are based in the animation workshop, and that the work that we do is considered practice-based research, allows us a lot of freedom to experiment also with the technology, but also with the different kind of pushing the limits on the art form. We're part of a very exciting community of people who are researching different ways of working with animation and different platforms. And that's been really inspiring.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that we tried for the first time is trying to tell a story that is it's a non-linear story, which means that the user or the participant is the one who finds himself or herself within the story. So, you open a door, or you decide to open a closet, or you decide to move through the window, or you do all kinds of things that define your route within the story that we've constructed for you. But it does make it nonlinear, and it makes it very unique and individual to the way you've decided to operate or to work in the space.
Now that creates great challenges for the technical team who are making the adaptation into a multi-user VR, because it's a completely different way of being in VR. The single user is it's really open to you, whereas the multi-user, there's so many factors and trying to share an experience that is both very, very intimate and also a group, and then there's an audience. There's many more layers to a performative experience in VR.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll stop the share now. Should we give the floor to someone else now, or?
I can maybe take over a little bit, because as the project calls for the different formats in terms of involving the audience in different ways and giving them different experiences of the story and different themes in the story, it is a lucky coincidence that it actually also helps on the production side of things. One of the challenges in producing short film in Denmark is that we don't really have broadcasters that are interested in short films, especially not short films that are artistic projects for an adult audience. And so when applying for funding and showing a distribution plan, if you don't have a broadcaster on board, it's just so difficult to actually get support. And having a project which was both VR and a short film all of a sudden opened up for other ways of financing, other support systems. And so having the overlap where, for example, the animation was funded by the film fund, the VR fund could support the development of the whole thing, which is usually it's difficult to get support for short film development, but it was actually, there was a better opportunity for us to find funding to do the development of the prototype for the VR. So that was actually our gateway into starting the project, applying to the cross-media fund that existed at that point in time. And actually our second round of development was also within this cross-media fund. The downside if we had only worked on a VR project in terms of production would be that after getting the funding for the development, there wasn't a scheme that would cover the production part of the project. And so this was where it was fantastic that we could then apply for funding for the production side at the film fund. And so all of a sudden it just kind of made sense. The problem is then that it's working with different schemes and different people and the different consultants is to kind of make them understand what the whole project is and also include them from the beginning. And luckily, Michelle and Uri had been working with Cecilia Ledin, the consultant from the Danish Film Institute before, and knew each other well. And so we could bring her in the early development while working with Simon Löwing and the Cross Media Fund. And I mean, it's also interesting just working with Simon Löwing, because obviously he was actually coming from a more game side of VR. And we kept on kind of trying to say that this is not a game. We wanted to kind of get away from that. And this was where it was great to get Cecilia into the project because, you know, she could more see the artistic side of the project. So a combination of the two, pushing us a little bit to involve more more interaction within the VR from Simon's side and getting the artistic feedback from Cecilia was really great for the project. Mark, maybe you want to jump in.
Just a second. I need to go to do color grading, so I need to say.
Oh, okay. Have fun in Canada.
Thanks.
So,
bye. Thank you.
Yuri is stepping out and going to an editing room and color grade from Denmark to directly from Canada. So that's kind of a new thing for all of us. So it's kind of yeah, and it's working. So yeah, let me jump in. First of all, thank you for UniFrance for having us for this discussion. I think this is a great time to talk about, you know, distribution of a very special project, because the context here is that we have 4 co-producers, 3 different countries, 3 different formats, and even 4 different formats, and you know, the film, the VR, the VR single user, multi-user, and maybe a theatrical experience, because I know Michelle and Yuri like to go into, you know, further push the envelope as far as possible. And the first thing we started, you know, talking about distribution very early on, because this is kind of very important, because the first thing we have to establish is what do we have working for us in this project. I could, you know, I could talk about assets, but you know, it makes me, it's not the word that I like, but what do we have working for us? And first of all, it's a great project. It has the different formats, great subject, and of course the design, if you just look at it and you want to see more. So that's the first step. Second step is the creators. Yuri and Michelle are, first of all, well-established creators in the animation world, but also with this being their 3rd project in VR, they kind of established themselves in, you know, this an artistic VR, a very experienced format, and pushing the envelope within the VR world. The other thing, and I want to stress this, Michelle and Yuri are great ambassadors of their work. And, you know, the first venue that we go to are festivals and stuff. And festival programmers, they want to do some kind of happening. And whenever you know that you can invite good guests and they can do a great masterclass intelligently with new ideas, and you can invite them to sit on panels to nourish discussions. They can be invited as jury members. I'm saying this for young filmmakers and young distributors. You have to kind of prep up your creators. And Michel and Yuri have been around. They are well established in the world of animation and slowly opening doors in different venues. And I'm stressing this because it's sometimes, as you've seen in their opening discussion, they have material, they have pictures, they have videos of their work in progress, because they know that this will be used, in the promotion of the film, but also when they'll be present to talk about their creation. The other thing is that, of course, we have three very strong distributors in this project. There is Miu Distribution, who is very well established to do the distribution of short animation films. In this co-production, they have the European market, where for short animation film is the strongest market. The NFB for the short film has the North American market, and Floréal is working worldwide for the distribution of the VR and the exhibition format. As I said earlier, the first venue and the first place where a project like this will be seen is going to be a festival. So you want to start with a big bang, and hopefully we'll be able to have a festival opening of the film, the VR, and the multi-user experience. Just so you can give the festival programmer a real happening, having a single project being able to see it in different format is what, as distributors, we sat down, and this is our first dream, let's say. We would like to open in a big festival with that possibility. And when you come with the table with, as I said, what we have working for us, it helps a lot. The other thing is that having strong distributors, well, you have some kind of direct contact with the festival programmers, sometime with the galleries, the museum. So this all works out together. I think for us, the thing that was the most important is that we had to have very strong communication between each other. As distributors, you learn to know who does what the best. It's not a fight, between territories and who. It's more about what can benefit the project the most. And whenever you think about that as producers, but also as distributors, if you think that way, you can push your project and gamble and on those opportunities. Right now, we're in kind of a very murky, weird time, because we're, what I was saying about happening with festival being online and not being live and on site festival, they're kind of moving targets. We don't know, what the festival are going to look like, but we're trying to navigate through that. And the other thing is communication, and hopefully trying to get the most information to take the best decision possible to make the project work. So that's in a nutshell.
If I can just go back to something before I leave the word to you, Katayun. As I started by saying, the challenge in Denmark, especially for distribution, is that there isn't really a platform for the short film format. What Michel and Uri discovered with Nothing Happens, and later we together kept on working on the strategy, was to exhibit the VR piece in Danish libraries. And that actually ended up being the main Danish distribution strategy to convince the support, the funding supports to support us. Because they could see that this was actually a venue where the Danish taxpayers would come. People who don't actively seek an experience like this are going to the libraries and are exposed to this, and most of them are actually curious enough to put the headsets on and try out the experience. And so this is something that we are gonna work much more on for the Hangman at Home, and I mean, which we are doing already with Songbird. Michel, you want to add something? We can't hear you. You need to unmute.
I want to add something and also follow up on something Mark had said. I believe that our venues are changing, and we need to reach our audiences in different ways. And that's maybe where the participatory installation comes in. I'm really curious. We have a product that can be plug and play, but what I'm interested in is working with venues, and not necessarily not only festivals, but working with venues in an organic way, site-specific way. We are looking to work with collaborators in different venues and making kind of adaptations of this project to fit different audiences, and working with local scenographers and open to new collaborations depending on where it goes. That's why, one of the reasons it's so exciting for us to distribute this way, because it's still, there's so much openness to it, and we have to be flexible and light on our feet. And I think public venues are changing, and I think that that's actually an interesting way to move forward with this project, because it does talk about participation in different ways. It's kind of the theme, this Hangman at Home. It's like most of us, we're stuck at home, and how do we still be together while we're all stuck at home? All of these questions are being asked by the project itself. So the installation of it and the options to show it in different places also relate to that. I think it's quite exciting. It's a kind of an unexpected twist on the theme. And I also have a little clip to show.
But maybe we could just have Katayun. Do you want to say something about distribution before?
No, I think you said it all.
You covered it.
Please, yes, I think you covered everything. Do you want to show your video, Michel?
It's your video. I'm gonna try to do this.
Our video, guys.
Oh yeah, the video that we did. Actually, yes, this is very interesting. Talking about the libraries, because we did a proof of concept of the multi-user in a library in Paris, François Saugan, and we had such beautiful spectators who came and see the work. And at one point, when we were doing the proof of concept, one of the bibliothécaires came with a poem, because they went and find one of the books of the poet, and they came with a poem to show us, and it was very interesting. And of course, I think going to other spaces as well, it will give this opportunity for people who don't know necessarily virtual reality, who don't experience virtual reality every day, to be able to experience these works as well. Go ahead if you want to show.
Yeah, I'm going to try to figure this out without Uwe. He's, Right. So this is the tests from the installation that we did here in a Carte Blanche theater. We're trying to work with projections, and there's a performer engaged too. There's a lot of questions about how do we involve audience and how do we create multi-layered narratives. So there's the narrative of being in the VR, there's the narrative of watching 4 people interact with each other in a virtual space, and there's also relating to audience and how the audience are participating in this experience, and a performer who kind of provokes you in the experience.
One of the things that we were thinking a lot about in terms of the installation and audience was how to involve the audience who is watching the people who are in the headsets, who are becoming the performers together with the performer, and to give kind of yet another layer of voyeurism into the project, but also really in a kind of more practical side of things to make it interesting for more people at the same time. You know, this thing about how many headsets can you have at the same time, how big a space do you have, and since it's still limited, getting the audience involved already while they're basically like queuing up to get into the experience. We wanted to make that an experience in itself also. So this is something that we've been working on a lot.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, we're still quite open to the different venues who have different possibilities. I think that it's interesting to talk to people about that. I want to show this one. Can you still see?
We see you.
Oh dear.
Share screen again.
I need to share my screen again, just a moment. And then that one.
Oh no. You
No, no.
screen.
Is this okay now?
We don't see your screen.
Okay. I'm going to try that again, one more time. I do share screen.
No, we don't see your screen.
See my shared screen?
No. No, but now we do.
Now? Okay. Do we see it now?
Yes.
Okay, now maybe Catherine could explain a little bit what we're seeing here. This was part of Romain's presentation yesterday, and he talked about the different challenges they had in transforming our single-user VR into a multi-user experience, and how to get all of these people synchronized in the same space where they each had very intimate experiences, but also got to meet each other in VR and have like a collective act.
And not bump into each other.
Definitely not bumping to each other. I don't know how many times I asked the Romain this question, are they bumping to each other? Yes, and they did a very good job. Studio Nix, based in Angoulême, with whom we collaborate from the beginning of the production of multi-user. So the whole challenge was to have a free roaming experience. So you don't have cables on you and you are free to really move in the experience, and you are with other users, and you do the experience and you don't bump into each other. So what is very interesting, and they did it. They did a free roaming experience, so with Oculus Quest.
and there is no cables. I think we can maybe, I don't know, I haven't seen a multi-user project yet with Oculus Quest. I don't know if there's a statement out there to do. And as well, what they did, the project is scalable. So what is interesting is that if tomorrow there is a museum or a gallery or a festival who wants the experience, who doesn't have who maybe they have a very big space, we can do the project as the scale as the venue that they have, or they have a smaller scale. We can scale it depending on what is how do you say, what's the offer of the museum or gallery or the festivals are. Do you want me to add anything? Lana, is there anything you want to add about the multi-user?
No, I think maybe Mark, you want to say something?
Yes, you know, you earlier on, Lana, you said that the multi-user experience is kind of nice because the spectators that are waiting for their turn to try on, you know, the headset are actually experiencing something. They're looking at other people experiencing it. And we have to think that not everybody is comfortable, you know, putting on a headset. This VR thing, you know, we're talking as if it was around for the last 20 years, but actually, it's been really around for the last 5-6 years in general venues, and most people have never experienced it. And I think that when hopefully the Danish experience in libraries or in public venues or, you know, galleries and stuff can hopefully be, you know, expand the possibility of users that never been inside of a VR, never been in a VR experience can experience that. And because this experience, and I'm saying this as a producer, of course, but also as a spectator, because the experience is profound, it's poetic, it's not non-violent, it needs some engagement from the spectator, but not a gaming experience. So you don't need to have a big user experience to come in this experience. And the fact that it was designed as an outside spectator first and then an inside spectator, it kind of broaden the possibilities to new spectators experiencing it. So I think that is very important, that we have to think that we still have education to do to the broad audience. There are people that experience, you know, that just want to experience new stuff and they're ready to go. But to broaden the experience, we have to find new venues, but to go into those new venues, you have to have a meaningful experience, but also a non-violent one, and someone that can appeal to an audience that will be, you know, intelligent and at the same time challenged by the experience.
Yeah, but I think this is actually something that we were discussing a lot throughout, because it's also about not exposing the audience, the visitor in the headset to something uncomfortable by being watched. And it kind of like the fact that we want the audience to see it before they go in, you are kind of warned a little bit that soon you will be the one being watched, but you don't really still know what's inside the experience. So there is this build-up that makes it exciting, but at the same time also for those who feel uncomfortable by being watched, they actually have a chance to kind of withdraw before when venturing into the headsets. Or not making a fool out of themselves, you know, like trying to fly or something that I would do.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things that Roman talked about yesterday is that today, like the multi-user, technically and artistically and technically, it's so fit in together that when we did the test, the proof of concept in the library, there were bibliotecaries who came, and at one point you have to put fire on some books in the experience. And they were very afraid to do that, and they were like hesitating and everything. And Roman said, this is what we wanted to them to, like the feeling that the artist and the technique wants to kind of the spectator to feel. So I think you succeed.
Definitely.
Why we make immersive experiences to get people engaged, and it's been wonderful testing process, which is still ongoing.
Yes, it is. We still have to finish the multi-user.
We still have to finish it. So Axel was asking us earlier on, how does this new situation affect how we're working and in the pipeline? And of course, our distributors have a lot to say about not knowing what the future holds. But there's also a lot of questions of how do we continue working and doing what we do in society is changing. Our role as artists is kind of being pushed to the limits. And I think that making a film, making a project, making a VR that its banner is about taking responsibility, or like at least becoming aware of your responsibility. I think that also puts us in a very interesting position now, where we have to take a good look at ourselves and what we do and ask why, and how do we make the most of it, and how do we contribute to the world around us in a positive, meaningful way. So our distributors have to do that now.
I would maybe say to our online audience watching here today, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat. And Michael, thank you for your comment.
You see, Michael?
Well, if you open down, there is a Q&A.
The Q&A, yeah.
Oh.
And
Axel,
I'm afraid to press anything in case I leave by mistake, because I still want to show our trailer.
Stay here, Michelle.
Okay.
We will read for you the comments and the questions.
Okay, because I still want to, you have to remind me that I want to show the trailer for the film. And maybe mention a little bit about the difference between the film and the VR.
Yes,
maybe.
please. And so then we can go on the impact of the COVID on your future distribution strategy in the following months, and how you will, all of you, discuss and combine all the possibilities offered by festivals or locations and venues, as you said, or maybe then platforms, and what impact all this have. But please, first your trailer.
Actually, I thought it would be a good idea maybe to finish off with the trailer and then open up for questions.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So maybe we can make sure to respond to this very specific question about how are we dealing with our distribution crisis, and then lead up to the trailer of the film, and then questions.
Let's do that.
I have no idea how to answer his question.
Who wants?
Who want to deal with the crisis?
I think that since the lockdown, we have been taking it day by day. It's really, I think the biggest challenge is to still believe in the project and believe in a brighter future without a virus. And we've been, following how the festivals are responding, and we've been basically trying to decide what best premiere would be for the VR, and obviously for the multi-user, we want to have. It has to be a physical premiere. So this is what we can do, is we can, because we have the single user and the multi-user, we can have a smaller, let's say, premiere with the single user, which can be online, and then still have the big physical multi-user installation premiered the way that it deserves, which is
Katerina was call it the premium version.
the premium version. Yes.
Yes,
But I
I
think
love that.
a little bit of hope and a little bit of ice in the stomach, that's the strategy.
Is that a Danish expression?
Ice in the stomach, yes.
Yes. But I think as I was saying earlier, if we can try to put on some kind of happening somewhere live and with with the different format, that's the best way to go. But on there is the launch, and then after that there's the long tail, and there's more and more venues, galleries that are interested in hosting VR experiences and exhibition. In North America, I know that there is a lot of museums are looking for new experiences. But of course, the pandemic has changed a lot of things, and using a headset will be a bit more, there will be health issues, and we will have to address them, of course, and be very careful to secure, to offer secure experiences. But I think, people will want to experience and live, strong experiences and situations. So it will, the balancier will come back. But we have, I think in this situation, we have to be patient, to see what is the best opportunity, and then just go after and put all the resources behind it. So that's basically it. But for a distributor right now, you're just looking at the moving target. The festival is usually at this date, and then the rollout is like this. Now it's moving, it's online. You have to react differently. So we have to stay flexible and look at the opportunity that we have.
I want to say something about this particular project. Now, I know that films and VR, they have a shelf life. You're looking at a 2-year run for something good. I do believe, this might not sound very humble, but I do believe that what we're doing is timeless.
Yes.
I think that even though we're using technology, I think that the storytelling is timeless. I think that the topics that we're referring to and the images that we're using, I think they'll be meaningful whenever and in whatever context we release the film. And I know that for our funding and for our distributors, and maybe this talk is for distributors, but I think as an artist, what matters most is, yes, to have a conversation and engagement with the audience, but I'm not like pushing it anywhere. I think that it has a life of it exists, and it's meaningful. And I wouldn't say it's something I'm really proud of, because it's so powerful. I think it will stay powerful. Doesn't
but
matter.
I also actually think that I mean, Michelle and Uri having a long scope of work behind them, you are maybe also more positioned to have that patience, where if we were to discuss a young artist first project, that would maybe be a little bit a different feeling, wanting to push for the premiere as soon as possible. I think that we feel that we are waiting for the right moment rather than pushing it as soon as possible.
Maybe. I mean, it's a part of a body of work. It's not an isolated incident. And that's also what makes us so open to new collaborations, even when the project is finished, because it has a future.
Yes, and what we discussed with Katayun when we prepared this panel, and I found it interesting, is that beyond the question of the premiere and how it could be presented the best way and where, there was also that idea that you were reinforcing the LBE experience and working with the venues and working with the libraries and so on. So it was not going straight to platforms, but also, but more than going back to location-based experience and trying to find new ways and new locations. So even if the COVID might be more difficult in this time, but for maybe for next year. And on that point, I would just add that idea that the French Institute is working on a catalog to support the French VR projects to find new locations to be presented. So with all the information, the details on the different versions and the physical, technical detail that are needed for a place to choose a project. So that might be helpful for you, because if you have multiple versions and ways to show it, you could use that tool to approach new places, not only VR specialized festivals or locations, but also museums, libraries, and so on.
I like the idea of working in libraries. They're very democratic spaces.
Yes.
So I just want to say hi, Daniel Schulich. Thank you for saying hi in the chat. And Voyelle Aker, also thank you. You visited us in Paris when we were showing it there. And thank you for your compliments. And then there is a question from Leo Wieser. He writes, I may have missed this when you answered about VR distribution and COVID. Can you also just tell us if distribution was rising or falling for VR work before and after COVID? Anyone wants to answer that?
I think that's a very hard question to answer because, you know, of course, you know, before March this year, you know, everything was just rolling as usual. And I think there was more and more interest in VR experiences. They were rising, you know, on the festival scene, of course, but on different venues, and a lot of, you know, there were slowly more and more distributors that wanted to specialize in VR experiences and VR either single or multi-user experiences. Right now, of course, everything is just you know, at a dead stop for live experiences, but it's going to pick up, and I think that slowly, you know, the world will come back. It's going to be a bit different, but people will want to experience new stuff, and it's going to come back.
Yeah, and last note, maybe not, it's just that we are all in a same trouble. For example, the artists, the producers, and now the distributors, the festivals. So I think there is a reflection to have maybe together, and to reflect on what would be the post-COVID world. And we don't have to be worried, oh my God, my film, is it going to be in a festival? Or we are all in this together. And the festivals have the same challenges right now. The distributors have in their kind of level. So I think it's more try to have collaborative reflections together and how to kind of not improve the industry, but to maybe provide with solutions together.
And I think that the main goal is to, you know, stay in communication and share information. You know, if you've experienced something good in a festival somewhere, well, it can be something that somebody, you know, another place can apply. And the same for distributors. If we work together, it's not something that we're all working outside of the ecosystem of animation has been, you know, but all ecosystem have been shaken. But we have to, you know, to pull together to actually find solutions, just so we can thrive, to help our industry thrive, and you know, being able to offer, you know, more and more possibilities to good and strong creators to, you know, for their work to be seen. And this is the work we do, you know, produce because we believe, and then have the most people see it because we think it's important.
Nice. Maybe.
But you'll have to maybe you'll have to let me know when it's time for me to show the.
Yeah.
Hello, Miriam.
I just wanted to say something in response to what Marc said. It's not having festivals and not being there in person and not being able to walk off the panel and go to the bar with a bunch of people that are strangers to me. I think it's a real shame. I miss that. It's easy enough to have conversations with people you know, but it's not so easy to have conversations with strangers. And I think that's something that we should somehow figure out how to keep doing. I can't see the chat and I can't see who's here, but I hope some of my friends are, and I hope that some of the people that maybe don't know me personally but would like to get in touch, that we could continue this conversation somehow. We need a platform for that. Send me an email. That's one way to move forward, is to have more conversations like this.
Great, thank you. Do you want to show the clip, and then I will invite everyone to I think your contact details are on Annecy platform, and we will communicate on the recording of this session for those who asked question about watching it because they didn't see everything. And there was one or two more questions if you want to read it during the trailer.
Okay, but it's very short, so I'm gonna figure out how to share my screen again. Okay?
Yeah.
Somebody's asking about size. So the minimum size for now for multi-user is.
Are we answering questions now, or are we watching the trailer?
Yeah.
Oh.
What are we doing?
I think we watched the trailer.
And then okay.
Right. Wasn't that what?
Are we? Is my screen shared? No.
No. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna show you the trailer for the film, because then maybe you'll have a lot more questions, and there'll be. Maybe if I can double click it really well.
What does the hangman think about when he goes home at night from work?
So imagine that in VR. It's just stupendous. It's mind-blowing.
It is. So Axel,
Yes, I'm here. I come back. Yes, I appear and I disappear.
Do we have time to answer any questions?
Yes, I guess we can take 5 or 10 minutes to answer the last questions that you didn't already answered. So there was a question on the budget of the project. One question about the minimum size for the installation for a single user. Um,
The
and
minimum size for single user, it's 3x3 or 4x4. It depends if we are working for an at-home experience as well. Maybe it will be less, so that people on stores could use. For multi-user, we are working on a minimum of 10 by 10 meters for now. But this, as we said, it's scalable, and we are working on that. A little bit lesser and bigger than 10 by 10. 7 by
Right now
7, for example.
10 by 10 is for 4 people, but imagine if we could have 10, 20.
10 people at a time. Yeah.
So that's not a library, that's an arena, Michelle.
Yeah.
Or a city square.
Yeah.
So for at the library in Paris, we did a 7 by 7, for example, the space.
There is a question about how festivals can find solution for these new times. And then it says prices, platforms, question mark. Well, that's the question.
I think that's a whole conversation in itself.
Yeah.
But you know, I think a lot of venues have found ways. You know, yesterday I was lying in bed in Annecy looking at you know, program 1, and that was the start of my Annecy festival. The thing that the one thing that I now know is that the human conversation during a festival that is online is probably one of the most satisfying thing that you can find on an online festival, is participating in the talks or the presentation. That's the plus value. When you go on the when you're in a festival, you do that in a cafe, having a beer, but right now, you know, there is the programs, but the human exchange that we're having, like this one, for me, makes the festival experience interesting and valuable. Otherwise, it's just, you know, new films that I want to see, but then it's not a festival. So that's my take on it. But maybe, you know, we'll get bored of all these Zooms. But right now, this is the best way to meet people, and I think that's important to keep within the festival scope.
I have a little take on that. Not with my hat as a director, but when I wear my hat as a curator, we run a festival in Viborg part of Viborg Animation Festival. We have a special program called AniDocs VR. We curate a program. It's a competition and where we curate a number of interesting animated documentaries in virtual reality. And we've done this before and we continue to do it. What we've done is working with a really small amount of works, and we're working with local venues to kind of create individual experiences in public spaces. So we're trying new ways of doing things. Rather than having a VR experience online, we're going to the periphery, we're going to different smaller spaces around town to show individual experiences. And that's kind of a model that I'm trying as a festival programmer. I don't think we could do that with the Hangman at Home because there's a conflict of interest, but I would talk to my distributor about that.
I think also something that Katayun, you guys did when we did the presentation in Paris just the day before lockdown. I mean, there are ways of making it more health safe by putting the pads in between the headsets and the face and cleaning the headsets after each use, being more thorough with that than what we've been used to. So I think that there are ways to kind of get the headsets into venues again.
Definitely. And just to add a note to that, as a festival programmer, the health issue for me is like the first thing that always think about. And we talk a lot between the programmers, when people are going to be able to put a headset on. But there was Victoire from Arles Festival who was saying that already virtual reality, we were very clean because we were already doing the sanitary precautions before anybody was doing it. We were already having all distant spaces because of the distance of, like, you always have to keep 3x3 for 6 stuff projects. So I mean, this was the norm in virtual reality, which is becoming the norm for all the industry, which is in some extent, I do believe that virtual reality, we were already very paying a lot of attention to clean the masks, clean the headsets and everything.
And there are decontamination units that we can use.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
these are tools that we're already using. It's just still not so easily available for everybody.
There was something about the costs, right?
It's the budget. That's always kind of touchy because it's been on 3 different venues. So I don't know where we are at now. Do you want to try out a figure, Lana?
A figure? What do you mean?
Because of the overall budget of the project.
Oh, no, I don't want to talk about budget.
Well, there's so many components to it.
Yeah.
There's so many components to it. I think that it's really hard. I mean, we have an overview, of course, but I think that every aspect of the project is so unique. I mean, from the fact that it was hand painted frame by frame, I don't think that that's relevant for most VR projects out there. The way that the studio was organized, you know, we had a 2D team working in France and a 3D team working in all of these different places. And so I think that the budget for this project is so unique. I don't know how relevant it is to discuss right now.
And it was so unorthodox the way, you know, this worked out. Started with the VR and then the film and then back to the VR, and both projects were, you know, being developed at the same time. So I've never been as a producer. I've never been in that kind of a situation where the asset from one was being reused for the other format and then back and forth that way. But that was very interesting to work it out. And you know, my applause to Michel and Yuri, because they all figured it out as we were doing it. So.
Well, I think that we all sort of aligned behind Lana, who was protecting us from all of that. We were never even aware of any of it. She just said, go for it, and we went.
Any other question from our public? I mean, 2 questions. Greetings from Tokyo. How do you contact and persuade libraries and public spaces to collaborate with your team?
Sorry, what? How do you
collaborate with libraries?
Oh,
well, I convince them, for example.
Librarians are really interesting people and interested, and we talk to people.
I think one of the things that makes it really interesting for libraries is not actually only the VR experience, but also the setting of a library, the books around it. You know, what's contained in these books, and some of that material can be relevant for the project. So basically, involving the library into setting up the VR experience and forming a library exhibition around the VR experience, and in that way again making another layer where all of a sudden the project can be interesting for school kids, talking about responsibility, talking about some of the other things that are,
talking about citizenship, democracy. There is so many themes in the Hangman at Home that are interesting to take up for
all shapes and sizes. I think one of the question was whether for which audience the project is targeted to, and honestly, I think that it goes to very small children. Actually, I mean, with guidance from a parent, there are some interesting parts that might be. But still, I think that actually it can go down to a very young audience.
Well, my older kids liked it. The little ones, no. But but maybe, I mean, we didn't talk about previous works, but one of the examples that we latched onto was Songbird, which was a VR experience that also Lana produced with us. And it did do made a big impact in libraries because we involved the librarians and the educators and could make an educational package around it. And it was a very inclusive installation. So that sort of, I think, paved the way for us to at least have confidence in public institutions like libraries to be willing to take these kind of chances.
And who are then the stepping stone into other institutions? Because I mean, they have another kind of entry into schools and elder homes, and all of a sudden that kind of helps us to actually really reach a very broad audience.
Yeah, even though, I mean, I think that like classically this would be as a performance piece, it could be categorized as theater. Is in its installation form, it's definitely museums and galleries. It's also very much a festival film, which I hope you could also watch on your iPhone. But we aimed very high in terms of the artistic authenticity and artistic vision. And I hope that trickles down to all the general public. But it helps with the priming a little bit. If you go to a museum, you expect one thing. And if you go to a festival, you expect something. And I think that that's also part of the work. It also talks about that. I could talk a lot, but I don't know, maybe
there was a question, but it was all
there were
actually,
more questions.
Thank you. Any other question from our public? Otherwise, we have to leave the floor. Or you guys, do you have another comment or?
Axel, this recording is going to be available for because
Yes,
there
yes.
are questions for
Yes,
people
yes,
who
yes,
are
yes.
okay.
I have to sign off, so
Okay, but I think
thank
we're good
you,
for that.
everybody.
Very
That
much,
was
the four of you and our guests for their questions. And I hope everyone will have the opportunity to discover the film and the VR in single or multiple users format as soon as possible in real life, in library or somewhere else.
Hopefully all three formats actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
They're different.
I'm very happy that we could do this. And I'm really thankful for the opportunity to meet the whole team here in one place. And it's very nice. It's very reassuring. I'm going to go do some color corrections in Canada.
So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Axel,
Thank
Claire,
you.
Christine. Merci beaucoup, Daniela.
Merci.
Thanks for hosting
Merci.
us.
And for the
Merci.
guests, we have
Merci,
another
Marc.
panel in 15
Yes.
minutes about the promotion of animation films worldwide, of French animation films. So much
we
more
should
about
stick to
feature
that
films, but also VR.
Color correction to do.
Hey, bonne journée.
Bye.
Bonne journée.
Bye. Bonne
Hey.
journée.
Bye.
Bon après-midi.